piece of this whole situation. What does your research tell you about this?
Thanks for asking, Mike. There are a lot of people around the Phillies today who are angry. They're not just denying this story. They're angry about this story. And I want you to think about what is essentially being reported here. That the Phillies are basically firing a guy with cancer. That they're using cancer as an excuse to push out someone who is beloved by everyone there. Everyone. Think about the premise of all that. Now think about what you know about the Phillies and how they do business and the atmosphere there. Does any of that make sense to you?
No, it wouldn't make sense at all, especially this organization. And, they would provide certainly a soft landing spot, and the last thing they would do would be to get the evil on this kind of a situation. But let's give full disclosure here, because the man who reported it is a guy who knows that the Phillies can't stand him. And so every now and then he will come up with stuff to try to discredit the Phillies. Not that I'm trying to be pro-Philly here, but that happens to be the situation.
Well, I don't really want to make this about him.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying here.
I do. Look, obviously somebody told him something. Nobody that I've talked to has told me anything remotely like that. Remotely. It makes no sense on about a billion different levels. And Mike, look, there's certainly uncertainty here about the direction of the franchise and the way things are going to be run because of David's absence and because of David's illness. But I really can't find anyone who will even remotely corroborate any of this. In fact, two people told me flat out that Pat Gillick never would have taken this position if he thought this was what was going on, that David Montgomery was being pushed out or fired or any term you want to use for it. And I totally believe that. And that's the greatest evidence yet that there's no credence to this.
All right, Jason, is there anything else we should know here about the Phillies as they proceed into the off season?
Yeah, they're formulating their plans. They're doing a lot of talking. I think item one at the top of the agenda list is to do whatever they have to do to move Ryan Howard. That they can't find a scenario, a blueprint for the future going forward that makes sense with him still playing first base, him still hitting cleanup. And if that means paying essentially all the money to avoid the embarrassment of saying we released him, I think they're close to that. That's what I'm hearing.
Wow. All right. Now, one question is that obviously, Pat, my feeling on this whole thing is in bringing Pat Gillick back, that saves Ruben Amaro, and the justification is that Ruben now works for Pat Gillick. It seems to me that he's going to be here for an extended period of time, right?
That Pat is going to be here for an
Yes.
extended period of time?
Yeah.
I think that is a good assumption. No one knows the answer to that question, but I think that's a very safe assumption. And Pat has really, from what people tell me, just dug in. Really, he hasn't acted like he's the guy who's going to be here for 2 weeks. He's acted like a guy who is committed to being a part of day-to-day decision-making on a number of different levels. And so, that's the way Pat Gillick does business anyway. But it's certainly something that suggests, it's not going to be 5 minutes and a cloud of dust and back to Seattle.
All right. Jason, thanks for stopping on. We appreciate it.
Mike, anytime, buddy.
All right, there he is, Jason Stark, trying to